Holt, welcome to Crafty.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, man.
Oh man, our little relationship with Crazy goes all the way back to almost 3 years now to the El Dorado Film Festival 2020, and just fell in love with the short then, and I'm so thrilled that we can get it on the platform.
Yeah, man, I was so, like I told you before, that was the first time that Crazy had premiered in person, like an in-person screening, because everyone
Yeah,
was on lockdown and streaming and so forth and so on. And yeah, I think I told you this before, but I had like an emotional reaction because it'd been streaming on, I probably maybe a dozen different festivals, which is great, and I really appreciate the attendance. Um, but like there in person, I guess I'd forgotten about the fact that an audience is going to react, and then so I started
right.
getting laughs for the first time, and everybody's laughing. I'm starting to get emotional and weep up, and then also too, I was it was the first time where it was the first festival where I felt like it was kind of a put up or shut up thing. It's one thing like you get the email and says, "Oh, you've been selected, and it's going to be streaming on such and such date." And you're like eating your mac and cheese, going, "Oh, that's cool." You're like, "Oh, people like it. Oh, that's awesome." But now I'm in public, and I have to face people that just watched my movie, and
Right.
so it was a little bit like it was a weird but awesome and amazing experience. I'll always have. I never even heard of. You guys pronounce it El Dorado. I pronounce it El Dorado, but I never necessarily heard of a place, and now I have such a fond memories of yeah the festival and everybody that the town loved it. So
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. It means a lot. So I want to go back to that sort of origin of Crazy, like how Crazy came to be, because people probably know that you're an actor. You've done a lot of acting work, but as I understand it, is this your first directing, writing thing?
yeah, I've been writing for a while.
Sure.
I think every frustrated actor writes out of just creating work for themselves. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Um,
Yeah.
and I've been an actor. I've been being on in front of the camera for a little over 20 years, and you know, and I found myself, just being honest, I found myself on sets many times, and I'm like, and I hate being that guy, but I'm like, when you're with a filmmaker that maybe isn't as seasoned or whatever, and I want to go over there and go, hey man, here's what you do. I like you go and you
Hmm.
do the rides here, then you're going to cut. And I had the urge to direct for a really long time, but I was just so I was really insecure about it. Everybody who makes a piece of crap thinks that they, we've all met these filmmakers that think like they're the next Orson Welles, and they put out something that they really stand behind, and it's a dumpster fire, and they just don't know it. And I was afraid
Yeah.
of being that guy.
Sure.
And so, uh, yeah, but I like, kind of, shit or get off the pot kind of a situation. And I'd been wanting to work with Brian Villalobos, the other guy
Hmm.
who plays Monty in the film for a while, and I was looking for something that was technically simple that wouldn't take a lot of money.
Hmm.
Um, and I ran across the short for Thunder Road. I assume you've seen
Oh.
this. It's an
Oh my
amazing
God.
short.
Yeah. Yeah. One
Um,
of the best.
oh yeah, I mean it's one shot. I
Yep.
mean it's one shot. It's uncut. I mean it's what I mean. They don't cut away. And what Jim Cummings did with that made me realize, okay, cool. You don't have to have a lot of moving parts. It doesn't have to have a car chase or have to have a lot of amazing, camera movements in order to connect with an audience. Um,
Right.
and so I was like, cool, okay, that's great, that's great. And then, yeah, I was watching Heat one night in the diner scene, the iconic diner scene that I'd seen 100 times.
Hmm.
And I thought about just how technically simple that was. Like they don't even cut to a master or a wide. They don't
Yeah.
establish the waitress. They don't cut down to the food. It's a medium and a tight and a medium and a tight the whole time. They're not walking in. They're not doing anything. You know what I mean? And I just thought like, and I also like the idea as a writer and as an actor, but as a writer, I really like um, kind of trying to catch the audience off guard, And
Hmm.
so I thought, okay, well, what can I do with a scene like this that's a little, left of center? And just started writing, and then crazy happened, and then I had to figure out the why. Like, I can't just have two guys talking about dicks at a table. And then so that's where kind of the hook came from. So yeah, that's. I wish it was more artistic than that, but I wanted something cheap, something simple, and something I thought I could do well.
No, I think so many people, so many young filmmakers could just learn a lot from everything that you just said, because I think there's a tendency, and I won't throw anybody under the bus, but I actually just read a first time screenwriter's first short. And, there's like a whole football stadium scene in it. And I'm like, this is your first thing. Like,
Helicopters.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, so it's like biting off something like that's just the right size to chew on your first go around, as a director, but also having it be very cinematic. I mean, Crazy is very cinematic despite its simplicity. So I don't know if you want to talk about that, like working with your DP and sort of the vision that you had for creating
Yeah,
these cinematic images.
absolutely. I mean, it is what it is, but I wanted to really play on the tropes that you see in crime dramas. Like
Hmm.
um, I, which I guess you can say that lacks originality, but I wanted to feel like, one of the best compliments is the mise en scene was great. You're in a gritty diner.
Hmm.
I wanted to make sure, like, yeah, I wanted it lit very kind of a noir. I wanted it shot like a crime drama, and it was
Yeah.
very important to me. And I remember meeting with my DP Jake. And he's known me for years as an actor, and I've worked with him as an actor. And then so I say, okay, well, in the first scene, like this is, what would Fincher do? What this is, I want the, I'm a dirty single, and and some mediums and stuff. He's like, oh, maybe we can cut away. No, no, we're not cutting away. We're going to do it whole open. And
It's
then
kind of like the opening scene of The Social Network in a lot of ways, right?
yeah,
Like the
yeah,
that
absolutely.
that just
And
yeah.
and Fincher's like my dog's name is Fincher, and that's not an accident. Like I'm a huge Fincher fan.
Yeah.
In the next scene, I want it framed more like a Wes Anderson movie, and
Mm.
he was looking at me like, uh huh, uh huh, uh, that's what you want to do. Like, and I'm like, and I was so insecure. I was like, yeah, that's what I just yeah, that's what I want to do. But I was happy with the way that it turned out, and so I really wanted to
Yeah.
make, for me, the first scene is their movie. It's the way that they're seeing things in their
Hmm.
head without giving away the rest of it. But it's so I needed to be as cinematic as possible. That's why that scene is kind of faux letterbox too as well.
Yeah.
For the sake to create that the differences in reality and stuff. And so, but yeah, it was very
Yeah.
important for me that it looked as cinematic and as a movie as possible.
Well, it's nice too because you get that change in aspect ratio at
Yeah.
the reveal. So that's a very Wes Anderson thing to do too, is like play with aspect ratio and whatnot.
Right.
Well, awesome. So talk about like I guess how did you have to get? This is something I like to ask all of our filmmakers because the channel's name is Crafty,
Right.
and so that sort of as being on a film set, that represents like the snacks that you guys
Mhm.
get to have at the table, at the Crafty table, but also it's like the mentality of our filmmakers. You have to get
Right.
crafty in order to get these things done. So how did you have to get crafty in order to make Crazy?
Yeah. I wore too many hats.
Yeah,
I
we all do.
Yeah, and I get it, and that's the way, you know. And if I'm being honest with you too, like I got really lucky with Crazy. I got stupid lucky in a lot of ways, and I've been in this industry long enough to know that'll never happen again. Um, one. I was going out and finding all the locations. I was checking. I was doing wardrobe. I was at wardrobe, like I was sourcing everything, and yada yada yada. But I envisioned that it's in two locations. In the first location, I scoured all over Austin to try to find what I was looking for. I never really could find something, and then I was going to have to shut down. Or didn't really want to shut down to die, but I didn't want to have to deal with that.
Hmm.
And somebody pitched this place that was a mile from my house that I'd been to a dozen times. That happened to close at 3 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday,
Oh,
and I
nice.
needed it for a nighttime.
Yep.
And so I just went in and like, hey, cool. And I talked to Mike, the owner, and his wife, and like, hey. Anyway, long story short is they gave it to me for free when I had money budgeted for it, and I was like, cool.
Nice.
And then I went to, and I had no camera package at the time, and I went to my buddy Ken Rogers, who he was one of the producers, but he also teaches over at he teaches the film class over at McCallum High School. I think it's for the performing arts or whatever.
Mm.
And he was like, "Yeah, you want to shoot it on a red?" I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, like what? Yeah, okay, fine." And that and I was able to use their students as interns.
Oh,
So I
nice.
got really lucky in a lot of different ways. And then and then Mark, the producer, kind of happened on
Mhm.
accident. We just at a rap party, 6 minute conversation, and then the next thing I know, we're in pre-production. And so I got really, really, really lucky. And I had a band of people that really believed in me for no apparent reason whatsoever. And yeah, and got it made. So I was just, but I did. I got really lucky. So
So break down the shoot for me. Was it a 2 day shoot, or
yeah,
was it
2 days shoot, 2 day shoot, one
so just
day.
one day in the diner and one day
Yeah, we
at
shot
the?
Saturday night in the diner to Sunday morning. We took Sunday off, and then Monday was during the summer at the high school. And
Okay.
yeah, and the second location is a classroom that it was during the summer though, so I was able to clear it out. And yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, what? Any favorite stories from set, or anything that like went wrong that you guys had to fix on the fly, or
I
was it
mean,
just smooth sailing?
yeah, no, I mean, um, what was so frustrating for me, I don't like being in front of I don't like not being on monitor.
Sure.
And um, yeah, there was a couple things. Mark, my producer, is a YouTuber. He goes by the name of Markiplier. I didn't know what
Yeah.
the hell a Markiplier was. I'd worked with him, but YouTuber's not a real thing. That's not a real job. Like people don't. That's like the unicorn. It's not a thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm an influencer. Sure, you are. And like I said, I had interns from McAllen High School
Right.
coming in and working on the set, right in his demographic as far as who his fan base was. Again,
Sure.
I don't. Yeah, that's cute. Whatever. So, but they don't know anything about. He flew down from Los Angeles, really gracious to come help out. But he walks on set, and I think Elvis just walked in. Like it was just
Yeah.
like, and so I've got kids. The phones come up, and and they're like, oh, and they're crying, and I don't know what's going on. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with everybody? And I'm just kind of freaking out. And like the next day, I said like was at the high school, and the film teacher Ken Rogers, who said, "Hey, I need help with this film." Nobody wanted to help. Like, screw you, Ken. Blah blah blah. Well, like the two guys that showed up, all of a sudden, Mark shows up, and the texts go out, and there's
Mm.
like like the Beatles. Like there's a bunch of kids just randomly hanging outside, like outside the school, like in the parking lot, just hanging out, stretching, just hoping to get a glimpse of this guy. That I'm like, are you kidding me? So that
That's
was
hilarious.
yeah, that was but it was a distraction, but it was fun too at the same time. But it took me a while to really wrap my head around. I mean, all the adults on the set were like, "What's going on here?"
Right. Right.
But then also too, like a happy accident, which the and I'm not going to reveal don't want to spoil anything. The last shot of the film, there is a huge penis on the chalkboard behind my character, and
Uh-huh.
that just kind of happened on the fly due to the subject matter of the film. One
Uh-huh.
of the interns said, "Hey, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, just do that. That's we need something on there. I was going
Uh-huh.
to see it anyway. Blah blah." And then so when they're framing me up for the last shot where they're moving in on me, and the DP just starts laughing. I'm like, "What?" He goes, "No, it's fine. Just stay there." And then more people start getting around camera, and everybody's just cracking up, and they're like left and just a little right, okay, forward a little bit. And then I didn't realize it until I saw it, but it was like that was for me really
Just
um,
happy accident.
a happy accent, but it was a great button for the last shot of the film.
Oh yeah. 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 For sure.
Um, but
Planned for months. We're gonna cut the part out where it was a happy accident. It was
no,
planned for
yeah,
months. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it was all my this was my idea all along. But yeah, so
Amazing, amazing. So you're on a lot of sets as an actor. What is your favorite crafty on set? Like when you go to the crafty table?
when I go to the crafty table, you know what? It's difficult because I don't eat. I'm vegan, and so
Oh, okay,
but
right on.
what's nice when you go on like a big studio shoot, that's dope as hell because they got everything. Like they
Oh
got
yeah.
yeah, they got everything. And but the peanut butter stuffed pretzels are
Mm.
just super dope.
Oh, peanut butter pretzels are to die
Yeah,
for, right?
and but I've always been like a huge crafty guy. Like I really had to really watch. I remember the very first like commercial I did. Like I was like 25 years ago. It's for a long distance commercial to tell you how long ago it was. Like we don't have long distance companies. It's one of those where you dial 1010 811 before long distance call. You probably don't remember that, but
No, I
it was
don't.
with Sugar Ray Leonard. It was with Sugar Ray Leonard, and it was my first like, oh, I got an acting job. I'm in a commercial, and I was a boxer in it. And then so I walked up, and this whole table, it was like it was like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places. I was like, so I can just take one of these. Are y'all going to put it like on a check, or like what's gonna? So I can take as many as I want. You know, it was like one of those, huh? So I was always been a huge Crafty guy, but like, yeah, the peanut butter pretzels are really dope. Also too, like as dumb as it is, fruit juice, man. Just go grab a little bag real quick. But I eat out of what sucks though as an actor. I eat out of boredom.
Sure.
You know, 'cause it's just like I'm waiting for the next setup or whatever. And like, oh, I'll just go see what's going on over there. Hey, what's going on, Steph? Oh, those quesadillas, huh? Oh, you know, so, next thing you know, like I'm bloated as hell. So
yeah. No, it's a problem. Like anytime I'm on a feature, especially a feature, because it's like you have weeks of this. It's like I'm just wandering over to the table every single day, and it's just the scale tells me that I went to the Crafty table every single day.
And
at the end of it,
you walk around the table a bunch and then grab something and bounce back.
Yeah. So this is something that I ask every filmmaker, and I obviously think your film turned out perfectly executed. But if you, as the filmmaker, I know we're always more critical of ourselves. If you could go back and change one thing about the production, about post, any aspect, any one little thing, what would you change?
Oh yeah, there's actually a couple things I would change. Don't get me wrong, I'm very happy with the final product. And again, I think I got lucky in a lot of ways, and I don't like banking on luck because luck's not always going to be there. So, one thing is I wish that I would have just not been cheap and got a wardrobe wardrobe department, a supervisor, and then also a scripty.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. Wardrobe and scripty, and there's certain things that I planned on that just it did not work continuity wise, and so I had to work around it. Also, too, as much as I wanted it to be, I talk about like Michael Mann's Heat, right? And they never even cut to a wide. I've seen a wide. I've seen like a still of the wide, but there's certain things that I wish I'd gotten more coverage because the way that it worked out for me. I got very lucky, but had something not worked in the moment, had a beat not worked, or I had no fallback. So I had nothing. I shot exactly what I needed, and I shot several takes. Don't get me wrong, but I shot multiple takes, and like even the conversation scene was like 9 setups, and but I wish that I'd given myself other options just in case. When I pull it into the edit bay, like it just didn't work out. So, and there are certain things that I had to hide a little bit, just due to the fact that I had no backup plan, no other optioning, to fix this one problem. So, that's probably the biggest takeaway for me is one, give myself more options. Also, two, I went with my gut, and a lot of people thought on paper, Crazy looked ridiculous. Until you have it was one of those things that unless you have the performance to really kind of go, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. Nobody knew what I was doing. And my crew, I remember like halfway, like my DP halfway through day one goes, now I get it. I thought you were just crazy. It's insane this whole time. And I'm like, yeah. But I, no, yeah, they thought like they paper like, huh? Okay, so you want to do what now? This is a drama. I'm like, forget what the dialogue is. Don't worry about the script. Just here, and then we'll shoot it, and then we'll side punch. But I think that was the toughest thing for me is the fact that I was the boss, and I had no one else to go. Hey, what do you make a suggestion to that they would go? That's a great idea. We'll run with that. I was that dude, but I was so insecure about it that I wish. And don't wrong, I went with my gut and I made my choices. But like, if one thing it showed me on the next time out to really, kind of get comfortable going, yeah, it's okay. I'm going to do what I feel that it needs to happen, and lose some of the insecurity vibe about what I think I was feeling at the time, and just kind of go with my gut. And the way it turns out is the way it turns out. But
So I've obviously never read the script for Crazy, but you bring up an interesting point. Like in the writing of the action lines or anything like that, did you talk about the tone at all? Like, were you talking about like the actors are taking this very seriously and it's in the style of Heat or anything like that, or was it just the lines on paper pretty much?
no, I mean, I tried to establish in the action lines that, Stanley, a high-powered mob boss, waits for his wait for a meeting with an eccentric hitman. Monty the hitman shows up, and so to set the tone that this is early on, this is a crime drama, and and that's one of the reasons. Like the very first line, you'll no longer be bothered by Mr. Conan O'Brien. I wanted the people kind of
it's like, immediately off. You're like, wait, what?
Well, that's kind of a dumb. Why would they choose Conan O'Brien? Because it's actually it's a real person. You know what I mean?
Right.
And kind of confused by it versus someone like I don't know, someone who's you absolutely know that what we're talking about.
Right.
And then kind of build it. And I wanted people to feel kind of confused at the same time, getting laughs. And in the first couple drafts, there was really no humor. Humor's in two different levels for me. There is stuff that's humorous, and there's stuff that's going to get a laugh. Like I'm very confident with the fact that this is going to punch and get a laugh. And in the first couple drafts, there was nothing, no laughs coming. It was just kind of odd and weird. And then, it was cool hook and great. And then it just kind of evolved just into some laugh punches here and there. But but I didn't. I just tried to establish, tension builds as Monty blah blah blah, and so it read, So I didn't really talk about tone to answer your question.
Gotcha. Yeah. No. I mean, I was just curious because like from a crew standpoint, I can totally understand like reading a script and being like, I don't see how this is playing out until you start seeing the images on set and being like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
even then, for me, the jokes didn't read funny until it's
got the performance.
Yeah, it's the delivery of it. And so I was really insecure about that. I mean, and I almost walked away from the concept to shoot something, even after I had the money to shoot something just more traditional narrative that I could make funny, and like I was just so insecure. Like, is this a good idea? Because I didn't have any comp. That was the hardest thing for me with Crazy, because I had no comps for it. Really, I didn't know. It's not really a parody,
right?
And I didn't go. Yeah, it's kind of like when I was showing my DP, I was giving him frames from Fincher films, from David Lynch, from very dark, very dark material, and just in my head, I thought this played. I don't even think even really Brian got it until we went and rehearsed it a lot. But I was even concerned about even after I got it. It wasn't until I went and put the first assembly together, and even then I thought, this is funny to me, but am I that guy that thinks he did something good, but it's just a complete dumpster fire and I just don't know it, So.
Well, you actually transitioned me perfectly into my next question, because I just got done cutting a comedy that my buddy and I co-directed, and it, the first cut of it, I showed it to some friends, and it was a little on the long side. Like it was maybe a couple minutes longer than the script would have led you to believe.
Right.
Like it was a 12-page script and I think a 14, 15-minute cut. And friends watched it and they went like, oh, that was, smile. They had smiles. Like, that was really cute. That was fun. I wish it was funnier. And I remember thinking like, God, like I remember laughing on set. Like I remember there's funny moments in here, and the edit like really played a massive part in finding that rhythm and finding that comedy. So can you talk maybe about your process?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Comedy has a rhythm to it. And for me, that's one thing that I've always been involved with comedy. Before I never wanted to be an actor. I went to acting school. I was going to go up to New York, get on SNL, and just call it a day. I was going to be an SNL alum, just like I was going to kill it. I was going to be Will Ferrell, me, Cheryl Terry, like I was just one of those dudes.
Yeah.
First film I did was a crime drama, and anyway, I started crying for 20 years. But for me, comedy has like a very specific rhythm to it, and so much of it is in the pacing of the edit. I mean, so much of it is in the pacing of the edit, and one of the things that was really difficult for me with such a tight film like Crazy is there were times when I would have a joke, I would have a gag, I would say something, but that's funny. But Brian's reaction to my joke is funnier than my actual delivery. And then so I had to fight with, do I cover the funny joke or his reaction to what I just said? And then not make it to where it's just a constant cutting back and forth kind of a situation. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But then also too, going with the fact that it's a crime drama, I tried to pace everything kind of slow.
Yeah.
In where there, it's not an energetic film at all. So that gave me a little bit of room to do stuff like that. But there was times where, I would just cut to a look of him because it was funnier than what I was saying at the time. You know what I mean? And vice versa. But it is a struggle, and I think that, like I said, comedy has a rhythm, and then I think it's important also to know there is, like I said, there's stuff that's humorous and there's stuff that's going to punch you. You know what I mean? There's
right,
and the difference in kind of placing those here and there. But I think the hardest thing with comedy, and I think like and Alex, you're going to know this is when I first came up with certain things, it's the funniest thing anybody's ever read. There's no one's written anything funnier than what I just wrote. I've just peed my pants and just thinking about it, blah, blah, blah. But you've seen it so many times, so many drafts. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then it's not funny anymore. But now you got to shoot it. And you're like, oh my God, this might be garbage.
Yeah.
And it's so scary. You know what I mean? And then, and I think I know you've had this experience too, as well, as when you do show it and you have a live audience and there's people laughing and stuff you didn't even intend to be that funny. You know what I mean? But I think it's timing is everything in comedy, and I think you have to have kind of an innate sense for things. But really, the edit for me, the performance and edit, yes, the writing has obviously got to be there, but the editor is just as much involved with that working as the actor and the writers are. So,
did you kill any darlings in the cut?
Did I kill any darlings in the cut? That is a great question. You know what? I did in the writing phase.
Okay.
In the writing phase, I did. I did not necessarily. I didn't just, and it was just because I didn't have a lot of options because I really otherwise then I'm having to jump ahead in the conversation kind of thing.
Right.
Cut stuff out. And it's very short. Yeah. But in the writing, I could have written the first scene that could have been 49 pages. Like it was.
Yeah.
I thought Monty and Stanley were very interesting and fun to listen to and watch, and it was about 4 minutes longer. The first scene was about 4 minutes longer, and then I had to realize, like, pacing wise, like I need to get on with it. You know what I mean? Like
sure.
And so and I think that's something that's important too, is finding out when. Especially with comedy, that's one thing that's one of these hard is you have these gags that are just going to kill. They're great, cool, but does it serve with the pacing of the story? And if you definitely think that's important, then are we going to lose something else? You know what I mean? But yeah, and that's something that I always had to be conscious of whenever I was writing. And some of this stuff, like I said, I was probably about 4 pages longer. It was a 9.5 minute script. It was.
Which is a great length.
13 and a half, that I ended up cutting.
So were you the actual hands-on editor for it, or was somebody cutting for you and you were with them, like, reviewing cuts?
No, it was me.
God, that's hard, hey?
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah, it's so hard. And like I said, it was my first film, and the very first shot of the film, there's a continuity error.
And you're like, great.
And no one else has ever brought it up or mentioned it, but I'm like, oh. So when I'm putting into the edit bay, all right, here's this. I'm gonna have a wide, and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna cut it. This doesn't work. This film sucks. I'm out of here.
Just gonna give up.
I'm like, I knew it. I'm a hack. I'm just like every other butthole out there. But yeah, it was. it is what it is. But like no one ever mentioned it, and it's not that noticeable of a thing. You know what I mean? And so,
I always go back to Scorsese and how, cutting for emotion and cutting for performance, because there are so many things an audience will forgive from a continuity standpoint if they're invested. If they're
absolutely,
not invested, they're picking it apart. But if
no,
they're invested,
absolutely,
then they'll throw it out the window.
yeah, no,
Did you have like people that you try, like part of your like, I guess brain trust, or people that you really trusted in your circle to watch cuts as you made them?
yeah, my buddy Mark, I didn't, it's odd. I didn't really show. Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. My buddy Mark, my EP, he comes from a YouTube background, but he has a really good sense of uh, what I was going for.
Yeah.
Um, and so I showed him cuts, and also to a filmmaker buddy of mine, Michael Urinko,
Mm.
who I shot a feature with and was working on several things with. He was my colorist. But him and then Anthony Padone, also too, my buddy from Victoria, Texas, who runs the Victoria, Texas Independent Film Festival.
Oh yeah, right on.
Yeah, and I sent those guys uncolored rough cuts, and was just like, man, like, is this fucking stupid? I mean, just tell me, like, just yeah, yada, and yeah, and so those are guys that I really listened to and really trusted as far as like getting some good feedback from, and so.
Well, the only reason I asked is because I think, when you're the writer, the director, the lead, and the editor, not having, the other people in the creative roles can sometimes be a hurdle to
Yeah,
overcome. And so I think like having those people, especially in circumstances like this, where you can give it to another trusted eye and say like, okay, this is what I want, but is this landing in a
yeah,
way that you're understanding the intent here
yeah. No, it's
is so important.
absolutely, and also too, I forgot the guys that are probably um, Ben and Andrew Adams from Atomic Productions. I've worked with them. It seems like a buttload of times, but they're the harshest people. Like when it comes to, they're not really nice when they give feedback.
Sure,
Those
sure.
guys. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
generally, unlike by people that say, "Hey, give me some feedback." But yeah, I gave it to those guys too because I knew they were going to rip me a new ass when it came to it as well. But yeah, they're also too like really heavily involved with just me getting feedback and like you said, me wearing all those hats. You know, I knew I needed fresh eyes, and I knew I'm not seeing it from an audience perspective. And I also knew like because I didn't have any comps, I think this is going to play well, and I think audiences will connect. But is this the stupidest thing ever? And so yeah, I think it's vitally important to find people, not just friends of yours, but like people that you trust.
Yeah. 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 You don't need to find the people that are just going to say good job and pat you on the
Yeah,
back. You need to find the people that are going to look at it critically. And even if good job is the ultimate comment, like they've gone through the process of like, okay, picking it apart and trying to find something to cut or
yeah.
improve upon or whatever. What advice do you have for young filmmakers, people who maybe they're starting film school, maybe they're in high school thinking about wanting to go into film school? And this can be from a perspective as an actor, working with filmmakers, or from as a filmmaker yourself. What would you tell somebody who wants to pursue this?
Um, yeah, no, I mean, I'd say if it's something that you have to pursue, then definitely pursue it. I mean, obviously, I mean, it's a tough road. I'd say, but right now, like I'm old as hell. I just turned 52. No, but like back in the day, like I was sending black and white headshots, like a book of them to my agent. I'd get my pager would go off. I realized there's a fax at my agent's office for sides. I'd go in and audition the next day. Now everything's like I'm a filmmaker. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
now it's never been easier to create content. I would say, one, like you hit on, get your tribe together. Really find what your strengths are as a filmmaker. Is it you like? Are you good at dialogue? You understand shot composition? And then whatever your strengths are, try to develop projects that um, that really kind of take advantage of your strengths. You know what I mean? You know, for me, I've known filmmakers like a big action movie fan doesn't know how to shoot an action movie, but loves action movies. Made an action movie, it's garbage because he didn't know how to cover action.
Hmm.
But for me, I felt strong with dialogue, and I felt strong with performance, and so I felt okay, cool. What's something because of Thunder Road, I saw something very dialogue driven that can work. What is something that I think that I could make that would be simple, not use a lot of money, and build something around that. And like you hit on it before, like you don't want any buses blowing up or helicopters or stadiums. Try to find something that you can really maximize because it's going to cost some money, whether it's $250 or $25,000. Find something that's going to maximize your dollar on screen. And so, yeah, I mean that's. But at the end of the day, find out what you can do spectacularly and do that. And if you can't do it spectacularly, do something else. I'm working on a feature right now, and I love the script. I love the script. There's a calf being born, on it, and I'm producing as well. So I question. I don't
How are we
know
doing
how
that?
to do that on a lower budget effectively.
Yeah.
Like, we can cheat it. Okay, well then let's just lose that and do something else we can do. That we're not having to cheat as much. You know what I mean? And so,
Right.
as cool as that would be, unless we can figure out how to actually do that. Putting your arms in and just having stuff. Oh, and we never showing the calf. That's not going to work. And so let's just lose that and come up with something we can do. What's the purpose of this? And then let's focus on that. So, but yeah, that's it. In long terms, find what you can do spectacularly and then do that.
That's great advice. Awesome. Is there anything you've been on a lot of sets as an actor, and you've worked with a lot of, I would say, well-known directors, Linklater being one of them. Is there anything you've learned from watching other directors that you've really taken into your own work?
Yeah, man. There's two. I mean, a bunch actually, but there's two in particular. You look at the names that people are going to know: Rodriguez and Linklater, and with Rodriguez, and I'm not a huge Rodriguez fan, but he is so passionate about his work. Like, he does fucking everything, and to see him with a smile on his face going and directing you and talking with a huge set of people and a bunch of extras, boom, boom, and then going and getting behind the camera, and then boom, and then getting those kibbles and bits for the whatever he needs, was his passion for filmmaking. I think is like infectious and like great to see. And Linklater, just the most relaxed dude ever. I mean, he's just, just chilling. Like, I think we had a callback when for the role that I booked, and I think we just threw the football. Like, we didn't go over. Just wanted to hang out. I'm like, I'm showed up on my motorcycle. And I'm rehearsing my lines, and I'm pacing the parking lot. I'm like, oh, which way did it go? No, that's not. And then I go in, and he's like, hey, what's going on, man? What's happening? And we're throwing the football. I'm like, yeah, so I'll see you on Tuesday. I'm like, all right, cool. His relaxation, I think, really translates to, it's just like, as an actor, you have to relax to really be there and be present. And I think his relaxation and his just kind of very calm demeanor about things really gave me. And also what that kind of puts out to everybody. So there's nobody who's really stressed on set. We might fall running behind or whatever. It's just, we'll make that. We'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Without throwing a bunch of crap and losing their minds. Because I've also worked with those directors.
Sure.
And then my buddy Ahmed he's in Doha, but worked with him in Romania on a series called The Pact, and just again, passion for filmmaking. It's just infectious. So that's, at the end of the day, the director has got the hardest job on set because he is the boss. And so I more identify with the workaholic guy who wants to do everything. Like, you asked me if I edited it. The first 5 times someone asked me who edited this, I thought it was a weird question. I'm like, why edit it? Why? Who else is going to edit it? It's my movie. Who else is going to edit it? Just, it seemed like an insane, like, I didn't even think about looking for it. It was like, oh, can I afford an editor? Oh, it looks like I'll have to do it. No, it was just like, All right, Premiere Pro tutorials. All right, let's get it out.
Yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, working, but it's a mixture of working that hard and being that passionate, and then also too having a relaxed, you're going to get it done. And putting all your work in preparation was kind of my takeaway in my. That was a long story. Long.
No. That was great. That was really good advice. I think, like I think you bring up like, of course I'm going to edit. Like I think I definitely had the same mentality for a long time, and I edited. I still edit most of my stuff, and I work with a great editor here in Shreveport now too. But I think the value of an editor isn't somebody who knows the software or like how to properly structure a timeline. Absolutely. The value of an editor is somebody who's like a storyteller and can see things that you don't see. Because I've definitely had that happen where I would have never in a million years thought to cut the sequence this way. Yeah. And the effectiveness of it. And so it's for sure something that I would, obviously there are like, I think because you're an actor and because you, again, have that sense of timing for comedy, like you're probably the best choice to edit this particular project. But I would definitely encourage young filmmakers to seek out people who are really good storytellers who, can use the software, but, bring a creative eye to the final piece too.
Yeah. And like you mentioned before, having someone who's got a fresh take on it, I think even like as an actor, a lot of people will rehearse and come in with the way that they're going to do it. And I think you have a good performances to be open, because sometimes your other cast member is going to give you something you didn't expect, and being able to flow with that. When you have, especially when you're the writer director and you have something stuck in your head, this is my movie in my head, and I went and shot that movie, but someone says, "Oh, cool, I'm going to try this," and go, "Oh shit, I didn't think about that." That's really amazing. That's different than what I thought. So, I especially like when I get to doing more ambitious work, I'm definitely going to have another editor come in.
You actually brought up something that I meant to ask, which is, was there any improv between you and Brian?
No, there was an added line on the day, but there was no there was no improv. There was an added line on the day because I really wanted to drive home, and I remember this specifically talking about it. On the day, there was an added line of when he talks about in the first scene, he talks about I was expecting a little gratitude, because I just go, I know what you just did, Monty. He goes, well, he was very tall, he was very popular talk shows, and it's I know who he was, and I think the added line was, I think we both agree that Richter's the scrappier of the two, and then it jumps back into nice. Again, you were paid quite handsomely for your services. I wanted to really drive home that, yes, we are talking about Conan O'Brien, the talk show.
The Conan O'Brien, yeah.
And just the idea that Andy Richter's the tough guy, just I thought was funny. And but there was an added line on the day, but other than that, and Brian is he scene stealing son of a, he's such a good actor too as well. Like, he did a lot of really amazing things that just made the edit a pleasure and so difficult at the same time. Like, I'm like,
sure,
no real improv. But I do a lot of improv in general. You know what I mean? Like, when it comes to comedies and on set stuff, it just wasn't a lot in this film. So,
in your writing process, because I think probably the reason that improv wasn't maybe necessary is because the dialogue was already so natural and easy to say. And so, and you mentioned like, that's my strength, I'm going to lean into my strength. Mm-hmm. So in the writing process, like, are you saying things out loud as you're writing them, or because like I remember reading the book, like the Duplass brothers, like they learned that talking into their cell phone was easier for them than actually sitting down and just like typing out a scene. So where do you fall on that spectrum of like literally only hearing it in your head versus like the whole thing is spoken out loud?
No, yeah, I'll speak it out loud. I'll speak it out loud, and it's almost like with rehearsal for an actor too. Like, if I used to just like think on my head and I say the lines in my head and then show up, and then first time they come out loud, then I get thrown off a little bit. And so for me, when I'm writing, I'm basically improvising it out. and improving the dialogue out, obviously. And that kind of doesn't work, and I'll boom, boom, and then as soon as I have something that kind of hits, then that's when I'll write it down. But
nice,
yeah. So I do talk it out loud.
Cool.
I have to.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I would have asked you, or anything that you wanted to add? Because I think that's all my main questions that I hit.
Yeah, no, I think that covers it. You asked a lot of good questions, so
that was really me just fishing for compliments.
No,
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I don't know.
Just kidding.
In the last 30 minutes of this, so what do we talk about exactly? Yeah. No.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing Crafty, or sharing Crazy on Crafty. Obviously, I love the film, and I know our audiences are loving it, and it's a breath of fresh air. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks so much, Alex. Take care, man.